Well, people, they're puppet masters trying to control the narrative.
It now appears if she wants to run for supervisor again, it will have to.
The sudden downfall of Tiffany Henyard's political career has shocked both her staunch supporters and vocal critics. Once heralded as the super mayor of Dalton, Illinois, Henyard's reputation and influence have rapidly deteriorated amidst a storm of accusations, ranging from reckless taxpayer spending to questionable leadership decisions. Reports suggest that funds earmarked for public services were diverted to lavish personal indulgences, including extravagant parties, first-class travel, and luxury hotel stays. While Henyard defends these expenses as necessary for her duties, critics argue that they expose a much deeper issue, an administration more concerned with self-interest than addressing the very real financial struggles facing Dalton's residents, many of whom are working class and rely on those very resources being misused. However, the financial mismanagement isn't the only scandal clouding her time in office. Henyard's leadership style has been polarizing, alienating co-workers, residents, and even some former allies. Accusations that she surrounded herself with unqualified loyalists instead of competent officials have further fueled the fire. Her public clashes with the town's board over budget decisions and her controversial appointment of a police chief who did not meet legal qualifications have led many to see her as stubborn to a fault. While some may view this as perseverance, others see it as arrogance. Critics argue these actions have contributed to a dysfunctional environment in Dalton, where even basic public services are strained, streets are falling apart, and trust in local government has hit an all-time low. Despite the growing turmoil, Henyard's most dedicated supporters remain unwavering. They view the attacks against her as part of a political smear campaign aimed at taking down a powerful woman who challenged the status quo. They believe her opponents, unable to compete with her influence, have sought to destroy her career through legal and political means. However, as more evidence piles up, including allegations of ethical violations and misappropriated funds, it's becoming harder for Henyard to maintain the narrative that she is the innocent victim of a coordinated attack. The community of Dalton has become deeply divided, with supporters rallying behind Henyard and detractors voicing their discontent. Her refusal to take responsibility for the controversies surrounding her leadership has left the town in a state of shock, and the fallout from her leadership decisions will likely resonate for years to come. Critics argue that this situation may be the catalyst for needed change and accountability in local governance, while others wonder whether Henyard will be able to weather the storm or if her political career will be remembered for scandal and broken promises. The stakes were raised even higher when the Thoron Township decided to use a caucus system to choose its political nominees for the 2024 election, a move driven by Henyard's aspirations to maintain her political influence. But a procedural misstep disqualified her, dealing a significant blow to her ambitions. The dramatic caucus night at the Homewood Flossmoor Park District Auditorium saw Illinois State Senator Napoleon Harris securing the Democratic nomination, much to the excitement of the crowd. Henyard's disqualification was met with cheers, transforming the event from a simple political gathering into a dramatic spectacle. In response, Henyard issued a statement denouncing the caucus as a calculated effort to undermine her, accusing Harris and the Democratic committee of manipulating the process. Some observers dismissed her claims as a desperate attempt to salvage her crumbling career, while others debated whether the event exposed deeper issues of electoral fairness and political power. Harris, calm and composed, defended the legality of the caucus, noting that although the process was unconventional, it was not unprecedented in Illinois municipalities. The dramatic events of that evening signaled a turning point for Henyard's political future, with Harris firmly holding the Democratic nomination. The fallout from the caucus and Henyard's political downfall now leaves the future of both her career and the broader local political landscape uncertain. As the controversy continues to unfold, one thing remains clear. Henyard's political empire, once seen as unshakable, now faces an uphill battle to regain its former strength.
Top in South Suburban Dalton.
Of course, we are talking.
Tiffany Henyard's political career has spiraled into a dramatic fall from grace, and her recent actions only solidify the divisiveness surrounding her. The night at the Homewood Flossmoor Park District Auditorium marked a pivotal moment, as her sudden outburst and defiance in the face of her loss in the caucus served as a symbolic representation of her struggles. As she stormed out of the auditorium, Henyard's vocal condemnation of the process and her claims of corruption and dishonesty painted her as a leader unwilling to concede, despite mounting evidence to the contrary. Her accusations against State Senator Napoleon Harris and others were met with a mix of disbelief and support, depending on political allegiance. Henyard's reaction at the caucus, while fierce, only deepened her isolation. Her supporters viewed the process as a political ambush, a calculated effort to undermine a strong leader. They pointed to what they saw as unfair procedural changes that prevented certain voters from participating, but Harris and the caucus organizers stood by the legality of the event. The defeat in many ways signified more than just a procedural loss. It symbolized the end of Henyard's tight grip on power and reflected the growing disillusionment with her leadership. Henyard's inability to acknowledge her faults and the mounting pressure from critics further alienated her from both her opponents and once loyal supporters. As news of the caucus loss spread, social media exploded with criticisms, with many residents expressing their frustrations over her financial mismanagement and combative leadership style. The scandal surrounding her excessive spending, including the controversial $33,000 charge to Amazon for community services, was a major turning point. It revealed a stark contrast between her lavish lifestyle and the financial struggles of her constituents in Dalton, where many residents earn below $50,000 a year. This breach of trust among her electorate ignited anger, as Henyard's actions seemed to reflect a disconnect from the very people she had promised to serve. Once seen as a beacon of hope and change, Henyard's image has shifted dramatically in the eyes of the public. What was once perceived as unwavering confidence now appears as arrogance and a blatant disregard for the needs of her community. Even her staunchest supporters began to question her leadership as allegations of financial mismanagement and corruption mounted. The growing calls for accountability were amplified by residents who felt increasingly abandoned by their elected officials. The public's trust in Henyard eroded quickly as her financial decisions came to light, sparking outrage and leading to a broader conversation about political integrity. The unraveling of her political career highlights the dangers of unbridled ambition and the consequences of failing to serve the people one was elected to represent. Henyard's defiance and failure to take responsibility for her actions have left her leadership in tatters, with her once strong influence now viewed as an example of political complacency. The growing dissatisfaction with her management style, coupled with the increasing calls for transparency, suggests that her future in politics remains highly uncertain. What had once been a promising career now seems more like a cautionary tale of the perils of unchecked power, misplaced priorities, and the erosion of trust between a leader and the people they are meant to serve. Situation escalates. Tiffany Henyard's political collapse seems inevitable, marked by a widening divide between the reality faced by everyday residents of Dalton and the image of leadership she once projected. Critics have capitalized on her downfall, using it as a symbol of political excess and corruption. Henyard's rise to power was once fueled by promises of change and improvement for the community, but those very promises were undermined by her subsequent actions, which many viewed as self-serving and disconnected from the needs of the people. Her involvement in the scandal, alongside decisions that prioritized her personal comfort over community welfare, has cast a long shadow over her achievements. The charges against her have solidified her reputation as a controversial figure whose potential as a leader was never fully realized. Her political death, as some have termed it, serves as a stark warning about the dangers of unchecked ambition and the potential for such leadership to alienate those it was meant to serve. The fallout from Henyard's leadership extends far beyond her immediate circle, with residents of Dalton becoming increasingly disgruntled. Essential services have been delayed or compromised, and major community projects have been postponed, all while political squabbles take center stage. The focus has shifted from addressing the needs of the community to navigating the infighting and power struggles within local government. Many residents feel neglected, and their voices have grown louder in calling for change. Henyard's departure from the race for supervisor of Thorin Township, after only 7 minutes, marks a new low point in her political career. This abrupt exit, combined with the potential for significant financial consequences, has further tarnished her credibility. Missing necessary permit deadlines and approvals could cost the community as much as $40,000, amplifying the concerns about her leadership. These financial stakes only add to the growing dissatisfaction with her ability to govern effectively. Calls for humble leadership have intensified, with many community members demanding accountability from Henyard. Her actions, whether driven by personal ambition or political power struggles, have detracted from the interests of the very people she was meant to serve. This situation serves as a powerful reminder of how a leader's failure to balance ambition with responsibility can lead to the erosion of public trust and the disruption of essential services for those most in need. It's clear that Henyard's fall from grace is not just a personal defeat, but also a painful lesson for both the residents of Dalton and the broader political community. If her story is to serve as a turning point, it will likely spur a broader conversation about leadership, accountability, and the importance of putting the community's needs first. Would you like to explore any specific details further, or is there another aspect of the situation that interests you? The escalating financial stakes in Tiffany Henyard's ongoing political struggles highlight a growing crisis that goes beyond just political infighting. Taxpayers in the community may soon face the burden of repaying funds that were earmarked for important projects, with potential consequences for local residents. According to the executive director of the Park District, the expiration of permits and funding could mean that improvements to parks and family-friendly spaces will be delayed or abandoned entirely. This, in turn, has added to the growing frustration among community members, who feel that Henyard's leadership has not only slowed down major projects, but also created unnecessary danger and conflict by mishandling the management of essential resources. While Henyard has not been formally indicted, the ongoing FBI investigation into her administration continues to be one of the most damaging blows to her political influence. Allegations against her are piling up, and reports indicate that even members of her once loyal inner circle are beginning to disband. Staff resignations and whispers of dissatisfaction are fueling concerns about the growing instability within her team. The investigation into her actions has left many questioning her leadership and the direction of the community, further eroding public confidence. Henyard's response has been to fiercely defend herself, particularly through social media. In a recent Facebook video, she expressed frustration at the intense scrutiny she is under and accused her critics of running a smear campaign. She also questioned why such attention was being focused on her, suggesting that there may be an effort to distract the public from other issues. However, this combative approach has only alienated more people, and her critics argue that she is more concerned with deflecting blame than with addressing the concerns of those she was elected to serve. Her attempts to sway public opinion by organizing local gatherings and engaging with the media have largely backfired. Media coverage has often painted her efforts as desperate, and her attempts to present herself as a compassionate leader have been met with skepticism. As her harsh leadership style has become more apparent, it has alienated both residents and political allies, reinforcing the view that she is out of touch with the needs of the people. The situation is becoming increasingly dire as grant funding for vital community initiatives continues to dwindle and projects stall. The inability to deliver on promises, combined with internal strife and mounting external pressures, has created a political environment in which Henyard's leadership is being questioned from all sides. Her once solid base of support is now crumbling, and her political future seems uncertain as both public and private sectors turn against her. This growing crisis illustrates not just the fragility of Henyard's political career, but also the deeper ramifications of her leadership. As her supporters waver and her critics grow louder, the true cost of her political mismanagement becomes more apparent, affecting not only her own career, but the lives of the people she was supposed to serve. Do you want to dive deeper into any particular aspect of this unfolding situation, or discuss its potential long-term effects?